I want to say thank you all for joining. Today we are going to have a honest conversation. Please feel free to speak when you want to share. And if you prefer, you can also drop your thoughts in the chat. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining me today. It's your host, Yonnie Unfiltered, and I'm really glad you're here on this live discussion. Today, we are going to talk about something that affects almost every relationship we experience in life: friendship, families, romantic relationships, and even professional environments. And that topic is accountability. More specifically, we are asking this question: what happens when someone refuses to take accountability? Because many people have an experienced situation where someone caused harm, created confusion, or made a mistake, but instead of acknowledging it, they deflect, denied it, or blame someone else. And that can be one of the most frustrating and emotional, exhausting experience to deal with. So tonight, we are going to unpack this together. We'll talk about what accountability really means, why some people refuse to take it, and how it impacts people around them, and what we should do when we are dealing with someone who refuses to take accountability. This means to be a real conversation, not a perfect one. So speak freely, share honestly, and let's learn from each other. Accountability is often misunderstood. Some people think accountability simply means saying, "I'm sorry." But real accountability goes deeper than that. It means being able to recognize your action, understand how these actions affect someone else, and be willing to take responsibility for repairing these damages. And the truth is, accountability requires something that not everyone is ready to practice. It requires humility. It requires emotional maturity. And it requires the willingness to be honest with yourself. Some people would rather defend themselves than reflect on themselves. Some would rather protect their ego than repair the relationship. And when that pattern continues over time, it can create distance, frustration, resentment, and emotional fatigue for the people around them. So today, here are our questions. When you hear the word accountability, what does it mean to you personally? You can go ahead and share your thoughts.
Yonnie, I think you did an excellent job of explaining what accountability is in your introduction. It requires taking responsibility of one's actions and how those actions not only affect you, but the others who are involved in the situation. And a big part of accountability is the communication part of it, and the action that follows, or the lack of action that follows at the acknowledgement.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I completely agree with you both. One of the things with accountability is with it comes a conscious choice to make the right decision. So you have to be self-aware. You have to be mindful of others. and you have to be willing to showcase some form of integrity regardless of the outcome. So it could be accountability in saying, yes, I was wrong, owning up to an action and taking the necessary steps to turn it around. And also accountability with something good, like the positive roles that each partner should be playing within a relationship. So the bit that really is quite important in it is the self-awareness, and that comes with the maturity, as you mentioned.
Yes.
And just to add, when you speak of accountability, the other persons who are involved in the discussion or the situation plays a very vital role, because sometimes we are keen on doing things a particular way. Probably it's out of habit or something that has become the norm. But Trinell mentioned something being right or wrong, but sometimes unless the other person mentions it to us or brings it to our attention, we wouldn't realize that, oh, this is something that I need to take accountability for.
Right.
So that's a key component right there.
Very good. And that's powerful because accountability is about ownership. I mean, why do you think some people struggle so much with admitting when they are wrong?
One of the issues with many adults is shame.
Right. Yeah. That's
That feeling of guilt, that
mhm.
feeling of shame, and the idea that, oh, actually, you're not perfect.
Mhm.
And I know even though we often just wave this thought around that I'm not perfect, a lot of us, we are internally striving for perfection.
That's true. Mhm.
And so when let's look at people not taking accountability when something has gone wrong, because a lot of the time that's where we tend to see it failing or lacking, because then someone has to be the bigger person or owning up or taking the taking on the consequences that may come with that
Right.
poor outcome or bad decision. And oftentimes shame is attached to it, and no one wants to feel shame.
Mhm.
Right? Sometimes again it's tied to whatever has happened in the childhood. Trauma has a lot to do with how adults take accountability for their action. Accountability can be something that is socialized. So if as a child doing something wrong, you were not held accountable, as
Right.
an adult, I cannot expect you to just suddenly become an accountable person at 18 or 35 without addressing probably some of those childhood
Mhm.
issues that may, cause those feeling of guilt or shame or pride to come in.
Right.
Mhm.
And I agree with you.
I think it's also cultural.
Yeah.
So Trinell mentioned shame. So let's take for instance Jamaican parents, right, or Caribbean or African parents, because I have found that a lot of those parents have similar mannerisms.
Mhm.
So you as the child realizes that, okay, mom, what you're saying or what you said is not correct. But how dare you bring that to their attention, because you're a child and that's not the expected norm. And until such a person is willing or ready to unlearn certain behaviors and learn to take accountability, then the issues will continue.
Mhm.
And it also leans into Trinell's point about shame,
Yeah.
because that sense of pride in acknowledging that you're not being ridiculed, you're not being judged. Accountability does not involve that. It's, how would I describe it? It's more of just accepting the truth, a simple truth, not adding anything, not subtracting anything, but it's a means of helping yourself to grow, or the person helping you to grow and move beyond the limitations of you not acknowledging your responsibility or taking accountability of whatever the situation is.
And I agree with both of you. And those are some strong points that you would have suggested already. But I would like to ask also another question, moving away from these that I have. When we look at, say, for example, a teenage child, because I think what Trinell raised, the point that she talked about, um, it has to do with feeling ashamed. I think that also might play out. And the point also that you suggested about Sasha, about children, even when we look at Jamaican parents, because I'm a mom too. When I look at those, the way children these days are, do you think that us as parents need to be held accountable more? Like we should accept or when we are wrong, because in discipline I realize it's a bit different from when we were growing up. So do you think as parents that it is us that need to be held accountable for these kids who are wayward, they're doing stuff that they have no need doing, or do you think that they need to take the accountability? Because sometimes it's like you feel that way, like, did I do something wrong? What should I have done better in order for this person to move in the way that you want them to be? How would you handle a situation, or what would you say to a parent like that?
I think it's a twofold situation. There are instances in which parents need to be held accountable,
Mm-hmm.
and there are instances in which the kids need to be held accountable.
Right.
So let's use my experiences as a teacher. There
Right.
have been instances where kids are acting out in school, and you're trying to get in contact with the parents to say how can the school and the parents come together to form a relationship to address the behavioral issues or the needs of this kid.
Mm-hmm.
But the parents are unavailable for whatever reason. They're not answering, they're not attending the schools for the meetings. So as a result of that, the kid knows, oh, I can do whatever I want. Or something happens at the school and the child goes home, tell the parent, and instead of telling the child what you did was wrong, the parent in turn adds to it and curse at the teacher or the school administration. And then there's a situation where the parents are doing the best they can. They
Mm-hmm.
are supportive, they are providing the resources, they're collaborating with the school to say, how best can we support my kid? And that same child has
Mm-hmm.
a mind of his own, has a mind of his own, and goes about doing things that he shouldn't be doing.
Right.
So the child has to be held accountable at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But and then there is a situation where some current parents refuse to take accountability in raising their kids. So there's a term that they're using for it now. Um, it's not soft parenting, gentle parenting. And that gentle parenting involves no parenting at all, because they haven't taken the time to research what it means to parent gently. But it's such a big picture. And as I said, it depends on the situation and the persons involved. What's your
I agree. When you think about respect, we always say respect is mutual, right? And when we think about accountability, is quite similar. These things, they are formed in relationships, or they require relationships to actually grow and develop in people. So if you think of parents, children, there has to be a relationship. And within relationship comes expectation, and accountability is going to be part of that expectation. No, I'm aware that there are parents are from all walks of life, right? So and parenting didn't come with a manual. So there will be instances where, for example, accountability might not be a thing. Because even
Mhm.
when I think about how I grew up, we may not have heard the word accountable
Ye-
outright or
Mhm.
clearly spoken, but we could see it in the expectation of our parents, whether it was a single mom, single dad, an extended family, a nuclear family. As you said, that, parenting styles are quite different now, but we didn't hear the word accountability or to be accountable, but what we saw was a demonstration of it in some ways, right? And so within our parent daughter, parent son relationship, we grew up um, learning those behaviors, learning the expectation. You knowing that, okay, you did not get your homework done and
Mhm.
your teacher decided to keep you after school, that's on you, because you know the expectation is to get your homework done.
Right.
Right. And so we were quite clear when it came on to boundaries. And
Mhm.
so when boundaries are fading, our boundaries are compromised and accountability is going to be compromised. So in today's parenting world, as a mom myself, I can see where if I am not clear with my expectation with my little 5 year old, he
Mhm.
will try to blur the line. Right. And
Oh.
if I'm not careful, they're absolutely, I'm not going to say they're smarter than how we were, but
Mhm.
I'm
That's
going to
true.
say they're a bit more expressive.
Right.
We suppressed our thoughts. We had similar thoughts. They're just more
Mhm.
confident in expressing.
Right.
So for me, if I'm not careful, my little 5 year old can try to outsmart me and push back blame or
Mhm.
push back. And so as a parent, I have to be confident within myself now to know, hold on, no, 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 no. Right. Mommy said you're not going to have this because, right? No, it's not that I hate you, or it's not that mommy's making you sad. Because my little 5 year would say, Mommy, you make me really sad. Now, as a parent, as Sash said, if I'm to apply quote unquote gentle parenting, I have seen, or I myself could fall in the trap where I'm like, oh my God, my son doesn't like me. I'm gonna have
Mhm.
to do everything so that he likes me. Oh God, I'm gonna have to give him an extra 5 minutes or an extra 10 minutes on the telly. But no, I have to remember, no, no, no. The expectation was you're going to be off the telly by this time so
Mhm.
you can get into bed. And so, what I didn't have growing up, so back then our parents could have said bedtime at this. We didn't question it. We
Right.
have children now questioning. So, what I
Mhm.
have to refrain from doing is okay, I knew if I had questioned my parents with some things, I would probably get a slap, right? So
Right.
now, instead of slapping, which is where I think sometimes we are having the difficulty in parenting,
Mhm.
sometimes we apply. So we're like, why are you questioning me? We don't stop to think. Different generations, sometimes they just want to know why. It's not that they're being rude, right? What I
True.
found with my little 5 year old, I would keep repeating my expectation. Okay, I said we're going to bed at this time. I understand you are sad. My decision make you sad. However, this is what I expect you to do. So it's just reiterating the boundaries and showing them that mommy did say telly time should be ended at 8 a.m., 8 p.m. Therefore, I now have to be accountable in following that rule because mommy
Right.
is not going to bend the rule. And I
So,
think sometimes that's what's missing in our parenting today, holding that boundary line,
oh,
holding the expectation line. Yeah.
If I may come in right here, Unique. Trail mentioned expectations and something else. What is that part slipped my mind?
right.
You know, we had a behavioral specialist at my school working with us a year or so ago, and the need arose because upon conducting a survey and interviewing some kids, I think it was, I don't remember if it was 100% or 90 high percent that mentioned they did not know the school expectations.
Mhm.
And we were having so many behavioral issues. When she started working with us, she mentioned that you have to share the expectations. When, as a staff, we started doing that wholeheartedly, the behavioral problems that we used to have is as if they disappeared.
Mhm.
And with Chanel mentioned that accountability comes with expectations, but those expectations must be shared. They must be followed. So you need to have routines to make sure they are maintained. Um, and those expectations should also come with consequences. So as Caribbean and African parents, we like to say punishment.
Mhm.
So if you don't do this, this will happen. And don't just have negative consequences, but have positive ones too. So, all right, you did something great. Oh, you praise a child. You
Mhm.
said, because you did this great, probably you can get an ice cream cone today. But don't always tie it to them doing something positive, to them being physically rewarded. It could be in the form of a conversation. So I noticed that you normally did this. Why did you do it differently today? Help them to develop their communication skills. And that's also something that a lot of our parents lacked. They did not know how to communicate with us. And as a result, we were fearful of sharing our feelings and our thoughts. So something was nagging at us. Instead of us sharing our thoughts, we were concerned whether or not we would be shouted at, or, you know, we wouldn't be allowed to voice our opinions. But now, as Trina mentioned, these kids are more vocal. I think they're braver than we were. And so we have to develop that level of patience, um, to listen to them. And even when whatever they say might hurt our feelings, we also have to go look at it from their perspective. Were they rude? Were they being disrespectful with what they said? Or were their points valid? And either way, part of taking accountability and having that discussion with the kids would require us being humble and being open-minded to having those discussions, because you can't say the child must take accountability, yet still you as the parent refuse to do that.
That is true. I agree with you both. All right. So, next question. Have you ever experienced a situation where someone clearly hurt you or caused a problem but refused to acknowledge their part of it?
Definitely. And I think if it's someone who is in your immediate circle, you have to make you share that with the person, communicate with the person. I think there's a particular um, way in which you should share it. I think you should acknowledge how it makes you feel. Or I don't know if you are aware of the formula they suggest you use, because you don't want to go at it in an attacking manner to say, when you did this, you did that. Don't make it about the person, but internalize it to say, when you said that, it made me feel this way. it hurt my feelings, and I would like for you not to do that again. But what
Yeah.
what if it continues? Are you going to continuously, at some point you have to make the decision. It's either I'm going to walk away or what. You have to make a decision at some point.
And how really did that make you feel in that moment of hurt? Can you expound on it, like to give an insight as to someone who might want to, you know, be aware of what's happening? How did that really make you feel at that moment?
You're always going to be hurt,
Mm-hmm.
and anger is another emotion that may pop up, and you may be sitting in this state of wonder for a long time, and that hurt can fester, causing other, for instance, stress, anxiety, stuff like that, depression. So you have to make the decision: am I going to continue sitting in this space, experiencing all these emotions that I'm experiencing, or am I going to make um, the decision to move past it? Moving past it does not mean you're going to give the person the power to do it again. Because at
Right.
some point, as I mentioned, you have to take that step to protect yourself. And that forgiveness is also an important part. And for me, when I forgive you, it doesn't mean, let's say it's someone who was my friend.
Right.
I'm not going to be putting myself in a position where you can cause the same harm that you caused before. So you just, depending on the situation, you just gotta take steps to protect you.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Very much so. Your point, Chanel, and then we'd move on to Miss Smith if she has anything to say.
Okay. Do you want to just rephrase the question a bit?
Okay, so I say, have you ever experienced a situation where someone clearly hurt you or caused a problem but refused to acknowledge their part of it?
Okay. Yeah. And that made me angry,
Mm-hmm.
frustrated. As I said, it's dependent on the relationship, the space, the time. So one of the most common places I experience this is at the workplace, in the classroom, when you have children blatantly lying, right?
Oh
And
my.
you know, you just know, right? Sometimes when you know when they're just messing with your chakras and you just, but then you have to hold that professional line.
Mm-hmm.
um, and in sometimes in those spaces over the years, it's been really hard in the beginning because you have to get up, or let me personalize it because it's an experience.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that I have to get up and face that child the next day, especially if it's a situation where, for example, parents got involved. And
Yeah.
you're like, but that did not happen. And as Sash said, the parent would come in all gun blazing, and it's so difficult. Like, it's just confrontational. And
Mm.
over the years, you learn the skills, but in the beginning, it was absolutely hard. I was angry, I was frustrated. If I could go the day without even having that child in my space,
I
fine.
understand.
Because it hurts. I tell you a
Yes.
lie, it hurt. Um, but as Sash mentioned, forgiveness, like when you get to a level where you've learned, and this is something I learned in therapy, um, and this can be extended to other relationships. So, especially in intimate relationships or family relationships, and that's a big thing in Jamaica, where someone in your family hurt you, or your spouse hurt you, or your partner hurt you, and they are refusing to take responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And two things I learned that has really been super helpful. One, how to confront, and Sash mentioned that. And I personally think one of the challenges in our Jamaican culture is the way we approach situation.
Right.
So as I said, we can go off attacking,
Mm-hmm.
um, and we see confrontation as something that has to be a loud argument, a quarrel, or a physical fight. But learning the heart of confronting meaning is actually I'm bringing this thing to light that I'm being hurt, right? And just learning how to communicate that to the person, because sometimes, Yannick,
Mm-hmm.
you might be hurting and the person is absolutely oblivious to the fact
Yeah.
that what they're doing is
Yeah.
hurting you.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
true.
so it's just coming, is first stating it, expressing it in a way that is respectful, and as I said, using careful phrases, you know. And then um another part of it is the grudge.
Yeah.
Am I going to keep holding on to this?
Mm-hmm.
Because what the grudge is going to do is, one is going to have us building the walls, because you're going to say, you know what, I'm not going to let you come and do this again, but not in an unhealthy way, as Star
Mm-hmm.
said, because if you forgive and you release it, you can then set healthy boundaries where, yes, we can still communicate, but this line, you're not going to cross it. But
Mm-hmm.
with the grudge, you're holding on to it, and then you start to build these unhealthy barriers. So you realize it's not just the person who hurt you, you're no longer letting in. You're no longer letting in the people who are so important to you when you begin to see similarities in their behavior, right? You begin to close off from people who can help you get through to the next phase in your life, because you've been holding on to this grudge for God knows how long. So it's being mindful of, okay, is this thing, after I've expressed it, what would I like to do with it? Right?
Yeah.
And knowing that it's not the other person full responsibility that's just gonna come and say, I'm sorry, and you're gonna be happy tomorrow. Sometimes they're not even ready to move on or to admit or to be accountable. So we now have to take care of our mental health and our spiritual well-being
That's true.
in that.
That is so true. Perfect
Mhm.
answer. All right. Do you think people avoid accountability more because of pride, immaturity, fear, or something else?
All of the above.
All of the above.
All of the above. And rejection.
Yes.
No one wants to be rejected, especially if they're caught out doing something bad. No
But do you
one wants to be
think
labeled.
though,
Mm?
do you think though that if a person is willing to take accountability, like say for example, oh, you know what, I did something wrong to my partner, and you're willing to open up and take that accountability, do you think it changes anything though?
Yeah. It changes for you, the person who is now learning to be accountable. Because even though you might have to still walk around with a bit of the debris of whatever you've done, at least you are now actually building like a moral compass for yourself.
All right.
With it though, it's gonna take time. It's gonna take time, and you're going to need to be around, or you just need at least one person in your corner, to be honest. you know you need at least one person in your corner. What that person would have to do, who is now like turning their life around and becoming more accountable, is you also have to give the people who maybe you have hurt or caused pain the space and the time to see it.
All right. Sasha, anything?
Yes, because no,
Uh,
it's fine. It's fine. It's
Okay.
fine. Yeah.
All right.
Speaking from the perspective of the person who was hurt in the situation,
Mm-hmm.
you ask the question, does it change anything? For that person, if the person is willing to acknowledge what the apology or the the person who is trying to right the wrong, then
Mhm.
yes, it does do something. Because for me, um, if my partner does something that hurts my feelings, and once he acknowledges that, okay, babe, I'm sorry that I did X that led to your feelings being hurt. That does something from me. That deflates the anger that or the frustration that I was holding on to. And we're good again. Whereas if you fail to give me that justification of acknowledging that you did something wrong, then I'm going to be angry with you.
Right.
So, yes, it does do something. And there are instances in which accountability needs to be followed up with some form of action. For instance, you telling me, okay, I'm sorry that I did X. Um, you followed up with showing me that, okay, I won't do it again. I understand the implications of it. That makes it even better because sometimes we have this saying that goes seem as if but actions speak louder than words. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if your actions are saying something different while your words are saying something different, I'm going to believe your actions. So don't just tell me that you're sorry and then you go do it again. Tell me that you're sorry and show me that you're sorry. And
Right.
don't just say, "Oh, I'm sorry." What
Right.
are you sorry
Right.
for?
So you're simply saying that you think the action works better, not just for you it to come from your mouth with a "oh, I'm sorry," but because the action shows that you're sincerely in
Yeah.
agreement with what you are actually saying from your mouth. All right. So now I want to go deeper into the impact of accountability because sometimes the real damage is not just the original mistakes, it's the refusal to acknowledge it afterwards. So, what happens emotionally when someone repeatedly refuses to take accountability for their actions? Question.
What happened to the person or to those on the receiving end?
It can be to what happens emotionally when someone
Um,
repeatedly refuses to take accountability. So someone keep doing the same thing. I don't think he's not accepting the accountability. So therefore it's the
okay.
person who is suffering from the accountability that is not
Mm,
taken. How do they feel
they feel
emotion?
unheard. Emotionally, they're going to become withdrawn
Right.
or closed off. The feeling of just being unheard, unseen. Sometimes this is how we get stonewalling in relationships,
Mhm.
poor communication, because sometimes, you might begin to avoid that person just for peace sake, but that's just external peace sake. Internally, you're still quite restless. It can also put someone on edge. So you're constantly in fight or flight mode. You just don't know what to expect. It's quite unsettling.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Physically, yeah. So emotionally, will actually bleed over into every other week because you're gonna be restless, tired, exhausted. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Miss Smith, do you want to share anything?
Okay, let me say these young people have covered a lot,
Yes.
because what I was going to say, yes, persons holding accountability for what they have done is it's if it's a stranger, it's bad, but it can work with because at least you would say, well, I expect anything from a stranger. But you're close, or even a family member, but not so close. But if it's a close family member or a partner or anything like that, and this person refuse from taking accountability for what he or she has done, then you know that causes, as the young lady said, the person to get stone relationship get stonewall. You refuse because the other part side, the other person, they're going to refuse from talking to that person or even to have any communication at all with them. And instead of making things better, it makes it worse because you're not taking accountability for what you did. I
I
I am experienced. I have experience with that. And so you know, this person, yes, he has done something wrong, family member, and he refused to take accountability. He blame church, and you blame everybody else around you apart from yourself, and nobody held you hostage or anything like that to do whatever you did, but you blame everybody else apart, and you have never one day blame yourself and say, you know what, I am sorry that I did this, but you know maybe it's because of whatever why I did this. You have never one day said that. Every day you blame somebody else and you go around and you expect everything to be as normal. Come on.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
that's what my take on that.
Yonnie,
Yes, Sasha.
Mhm.
as Jasmine shared just now,
Mm-hmm.
she had me recalling an incident from earlier this afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have a family member back home,
Yes.
right? She uses this contractor to
Mm-hmm.
work on her house.
Right.
And each time the contractor does something, he shortchanges her. Right now, a part of her house is without running water because the man needs to go do some plumbing work on the house.
Mm.
And each time I tell her, stop hiring that man. And she finds every excuse in the book as to why she has to use him. And
Right.
I'm like, why? Because every time you need something done, this man does something that upsets you. There are other persons that you can call.
Right.
But she's not seeing it from that perspective. And I've said it to her, listen, you see, I don't want to hear anything about you and this person because you're frustrating me and you're not acknowledging what you're doing wrong.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So today I said, when she was there talking, so she was talking about not having water. And I said to her, I hope you don't get any more. And
Okay.
next time he comes, I hope he takes your electricity.
Okay.
And that frustrated her so much. She hung up on me and I'm like, I love you too.
All right. So no accountability. She keeps repeating the same thing and expect better results.
And I
Okay.
think that's also part of our problems too. We keep
Mm-hmm.
going through this cycle.
Right.
So the lack of accountability puts us in this cycle, and you keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result.
Right.
And until you take that active decision to change something, in this case, acknowledging your part and taking accountability of what you need to do and taking those steps to implement change, the cycle continues.
Right. That's true. All right. Moving on. Do you think a relationship can remain healthy when one person never takes accountability?
No,
Mm-hmm.
because Trinell mentioned earlier that the person will become closed off at some point. The frustration will drive you to pull away. It's either you're going to constantly have arguments or the person who is affected will become silent, and once the silence builds, the relationship will eventually die.
Okay.
Amen. One
Mhm.
hand cannot clap.
Hmm.
All right. All right, Miss Janelle. All right.
And it takes two to tango. So yeah.
Okay. So, what are some signs that someone is avoiding accountability?
Oh God. Sometimes when you see we've got a blanket phrase in Jamaica that I'm gonna go for the intimate relationship part of it. We've got a blanket phrase in Jamaica sometimes when people want to avoid responsibilities and being accountable. They said
Mhm.
one of the one either of the spouse is a miserable person.
Right.
And so sometimes you find that one of the partners just always not at home, right? Whatever they're doing out there to occupy their mind space and their time, sometimes that shows because the person doesn't want to be in the situation or in the presence of the other person who is trying to hold them accountable. And this is also something I see in the classroom, or with, just having a relationship with parents. Sometimes when you really sift through to see, okay, why that child said they don't like that teacher, they don't like that person, because somebody's out there is holding them accountable and seeing them for what, they truly are, and seeing the
Right.
error and seeing the things that's happening. So sometimes you find that one of the spouses either, I'm going to use it, the Jamaican in the community area sometimes, they hanging around by the bingo place, they're hanging around at the rum bar, they're hanging around, in wherever they can have that. Sometimes, don't
Right.
get me wrong, I'm not saying all the time that's what it suggests, but sometimes the avoidance, that's one of the big
Mhm.
things, right? Because then you have to face the issue.
Right.
Another thing is people just not being honest with themselves. I don't know why, um, but we are struggling as a culture with the word vulnerability.
Mhm.
Because if you're accountable, you're gonna be vulnerable, right? You're
Right.
gonna show and say, I am not perfect, I've got flaws. For example, I think I've got some OCD traits when it comes down to a house.
Right.
And my husband loved to have a lovely shower and then just wrap him towel around himself and then he'll run to the room because, whereas I'm a country girl, I
Mhm.
like to use my flannel.
Right.
So I'm not dripping when I step out my bathroom, right?
Mhm.
I've got a
Mhm.
dripping husband. And
Right.
so sometimes I'm like, why don't you just pick up your towel? Don't put it on the bed. Don't do that, whatever. And sometimes he'll say, well, you don't have to be so grumpy about it.
Right.
But over time, I see realizing, let me take out my towel here because I don't want Mrs. to get grumpy. Well, now you understand that that's something that, one of my pet peeves, that's something I'm not happy with. Right.
Right.
And so the thing is, sometimes we in relationships where we are trying, because you remember you asked the question, can it continue with one
Mhm.
person just be sometimes we see that happening because that one person now have overcompensated or have compromised when it comes on to the expectations, the things that you hold dear.
Right.
Just start those things start strip away, and then you find in no time you're wondering who is this person when you look in this in the mirror. You're
Right.
no longer that person, right? But one of the things I'd say, the avoidance. You
Right.
can tell why you avoiding going home, why you avoiding that conversation, why you have, just doing that, and the fear of being vulnerable.
Right. Good.
Um, okay, just want to say something. Can I?
You can go ahead.
Okay, yes. That was what I was just going to say. When people don't want to take accountability for their actions, they avoid the subject. At all times, they avoid the subject. Experience teaches wisdom. They continue
when the subject comes up, they find something else to say to go around it. They either busy, are they going out, are they going something have something to do, and they avoid the subject at all times.
Okay.
Mhm.
If I may add, Trinell mentioned um, the one person being considered miserable. I think part of the reason why one party becomes miserable, it's because of the avoidance and the lack of accountability, and that will drive some people crazy. So I've observed situations in which one party, it's as if that one person is carrying the burden of everything. And I think the buildup is what leads to the person being described as miserable. And because if you're constantly telling a person, okay, you need to do this, or this makes me feel this way, and nothing is changing, it's going to be displayed in another way at some point in time.
Mm-hmm. Very good answers. What's the difference between someone making a mistake and someone who has a pattern of never owning their behavior?
I think a mistake is when a person makes a mistake, that person will readily acknowledge that I did this and I'm sorry. It was a genuine
Okay.
mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And the pattern speaks for itself. You constantly do it. And even
And not
when,
taking accountability.
right, not taking accountability, even when it is brought to your attention that you're constantly doing this and it makes me feel this way. So that would be the difference I highlight.
Oh, okay. Do you have anything to say, Chanel? Anyone else?
Yeah, I agree with Sash. A pattern is a habit, isn't it? So it's something you constantly do. A mistake. Um, I'm not gonna say you don't do it again, but it doesn't become part of your habit.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever experienced someone apologizing with words but never changing their behavior?
Our children.
I think the adults do that too.
Our children. We see it a lot with children
Right.
and they never repeat it,
Adults
but
too.
the adults they do.
Yeah. We
Because
had a man, a brother at our church, and
Mm-hmm.
he would always be talking, and he would talk things, and then when it comes to people's attention, then he would come, oh, if I had wronged you, I'm sorry. And it become like a repetition. Every time he would come back. So because of that, it doesn't have any weight again at all. The apologies doesn't have any weight because it's a regular something. Yeah.
oh, okay.
So too much of that doesn't make any sense either.
Okay. Very good answers. True accountability includes changing, not just apology. It means you're supposed to make that change. So I think most of us, we spoke on that topic earlier on, where we talk about it's not about you just saying it from your mouth. Oh, I need to do better on this. Just like Trinell, her husband, told started using the toil because he didn't want any more issues with his wife, so he started to use the toil to show accountability that listen, I'm gonna make that change, and this is what we all want. Okay, all righty. Oh, what does it do to a person's emotionally when they keep trying to explain their pain to someone who refuses to acknowledge it?
It causes anger and frustration.
Okay.
Um, it deteriorates relationships when there's no acknowledgement going on, but it eats at the person or the person who is being wronged.
Mm-hmm.
And if that person is not careful, it can also impact other aspects of the person's life. So, for instance, I remember years ago someone wronged me, and I remember being so angry. I don't know if you have ever experienced feeling where your heart feels so heavy. It's as if the anger is weighing you down. I have never felt that before. And it was a Monday morning, so the weekend into Monday morning when I was going to work, I remember calling my pastor and I said to him, "How do you forgive?" And he said, "You have to just let it go. You just have to say, 'I forgive you,' and let it go." I was standing at the bus stop when we spoke, and I remember saying and doing what he said.
Right.
And immediately I could feel the change in my heart because I felt so heavy. And that weekend, I was snapping at other people around me who had no part in what was going on.
Hmm.
So it definitely feeds into other aspects of your life if you're not careful about it.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, because and some of those things causes people to lose their mental capabilities because they just go psycho because they certain people can't take certain things, and maybe if the other party had come around, and gently say, that I'm sorry, and not just speak as we said before, but act sorry, act as if they're really and truly sorry. Some things might be bad that person's done to you. It might be so bad, but the way that they come and talk to you, and you watch them because the other person is going to watch to see if what they're saying they really mean it. And then when you see that they mean it and you see how they act and how they live and how they behave, then it changes everything. And but when they are pushing you away and start to blame other people and try to blame other people, you don't know what it does to people. Some people never come back from those things. Never come back. So we have to be very careful how we treat people and how we take accountability for our actions.
At what point do you stop trying to explain yourself to someone who refuses to understand? What's the point or the segment where you draw that line? Oh, I'm not doing this anymore.
I think the point in time when you draw the line, when a person refuses to take accountability, it's when you decide, I have had enough, or
Mhm.
I will not be a part of this continuous cycle, or this, Jasmine mentioned it, it is eating at my mental health. I need to take care of me and draw the line here in order to maintain my sanity.
Yes.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you. All right. So, what lesson have you personally learned from dealing with someone who would not take accountability?
Sometimes you have to accept that the person will not take accountability, and I need to let it go, forgive, let it go, and move on. So that would be one
Protect me.
lesson that I have learned. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone
Yonnie?
else?
Yeah, can I touch on the question before this one?
No
Is
problem.
do you want to repeat that question again?
Okay,
Let
so
me
at
see.
what point do you stop trying to explain yourself to someone who refuses to understand?
Yeah. That one is it's a challenging one.
Mhm.
Because again, it depends on the relationship, and I we're looking at intimate relationship, we're looking at family relationship, we're looking at parenting and all of that.
Right.
I cannot just draw the line with my child. I cannot just draw the line with my husband.
Right.
I cannot just draw the line with my mother or a sibling when it comes on to certain things. What I can do, I can put the boundaries there. But
No.
I just want to clarify in drawing the line, because sometimes, we have a culture where we can really get hyped up when situations are happening, and we have those who hold us really dear to their heart,
Right.
seeing and witnessing, and we can understand they're hurting. And so it's easy for someone to, thrive off that, to say, well, my friend said I'm silly if I keep doing this, or my bestie said, But at the end of the day, we have to look at the relationship. And sometimes a lot of relationship it break down because we use the decision of those who we'd say hold us really dear. They
Right.
force us into when emotionally we're not there. We're
Right.
not ready for it. And a lot of people are regretting a lot of these things today. And so this is where I would say, as Sash mentioned, when enough is enough for you,
Mhm.
that necessarily may not be enough. It's time to walk out the door and walk out of a marriage and walk away from your child, or ignore your teenager who is always on the street and just not listening to you anymore. You're just gonna let him over, and if police find him, find him. No. Right. This is where you're going to know, say, I have tried.
Right.
No. I need to find a community. I need help. And again, it comes back to vulnerability.
Mhm.
Sometimes we want to come across as if, yes, we can handle it. And we are really good at putting on this facade of saying, yes, I don't want that man back in my house. I kick him out. I'm doing this over and over, but deep down we are wounded. And if that bit is not dealt with, we're going to find ourselves right back into a similar relationship,
Right.
seeking after similar things. And so there has to come a point where, okay, I cannot reach my spouse when it comes on to this matter, whatever the matter might be. However, I know he listens to a best friend he has that I probably can, so it's just tapping into what you have, the resources you have, because sometimes we might not be the one to show them that they're not being accountable, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Right? So
Mhm.
it's stepping out. Okay, I know my mom, she loves me. She's someone who is not afraid to confront the old-fashioned way. So if I am having a particular challenge, I ask myself, hold on, is mommy the right person? Am I going to work her up emotionally? When I tell her what I'm experiencing, is it going to allow my mom to give me a sound counsel? Or is she going to become so emotionally involved? She just want to defend me. So we have to sift through our community, and it will fluctuate. It may not always be that one person,
Right.
right? You have to fluctuate through that community. I don't know. I'm sure my husband would permit me to say this. There was one time I observed something in terms of his relationship with him and his mom,
Mhm.
and I wasn't comfortable with it. And I
Right.
spoke to him about it in the calmest way I possibly could.
Mhm.
But I wasn't sure it really stuck. And maybe for him he was thinking, you're just another female, so sure.
Yeah.
So in that moment I said, no, I don't like this. I picked up the phone and I called his best friend. And he thought I was gonna call him to complain about my marriage. I'm like, don't worry, when that time comes, if it's you, you will get the call. But when I explained to him and I said, I think he's stressed because sometimes we also need to be conscious and mindful of other people. And I get it. When we're hurting, it's hard.
Right.
But also we have to see people as infallible beings as well. And I spoke to his friend and I explained what I observed and I think he's stressed. And his friend, I'm telling you, he rang him immediately. I heard the phone ringing and he walked away. And they chat for about 45 minutes. And to this day, this was done over 2 years ago. To this day, he always talk about it. He said, my mind was just in a place. And the best thing you did, you picked up the phone and you called a friend.
Right.
Sometimes we are not the one to put it on the table to say, you need to be accountable. But we need to learn to find in those moments, find a community that can help you.
Yeah.
It could be a therapist, it could be an auntie, it could be anybody that's gonna give you sound counsel. Not somebody that's gonna be at the emotional end of it. You know? Because sometimes we can be blinded by those things. So I think that's absolutely important.
Okay. That's good.
Well said.
Well said. Anyone else? Okay, so let's do a quick round now with short response. What's worse, being lied to or being blamed or being dismissed?
I can't even pick one.
I agree.
Oh Lord. So everything, you would say everything is just on the same flat surface. Nothing is different. There's nothing that needs any special attention. What's worse, being lied to? Well, child, I tell you, I don't like to be lied to. I don't like that at all, completely. So that's a no-no for me. Being blamed for something that I know I didn't do, I don't work with that one. Or being dismissed, no, I don't have any. So anyone have any objection to this?
Not at all. They're an equal standing.
Okay. Can someone truly love you and still refuse accountability?
Yes.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Let me hear you.
There are many broken people who want to do well in relationships. And you remember when I said sometimes accountability stems from trauma, our childhood experiences. And so I believe or maybe I would say trying to be accountable but failing miserable at it. Put it that way then. And unless they can unpack those things and really get some, inner healing when it comes down to those things, it can be really hard.
Right.
And I'll share a bit personal because I think it was about 3 weeks ago. My husband and I, we traveled to work at the same time we leave the house. And when I'm coming on to you said it's unfiltered, right?
Yes, ma'am. Unfiltered.
So I have really, really bad PMS. And so one of the biggest part of it is my mood. I'm anemic as well, so that gives me a lot of low mood. So it takes a lot of talking to myself, all of that to really keep my mood going, especially around about that time. Right. And about 3 weeks ago, we've been at it. We could sense our responses have been sharp. This is me and my husband. We've been at it. So we got to the point in our journey where we now then separate. And my work colleague was there, who is like a sister to me, and he said to her, "She's just too miserable." And I said, I paused him there because I'm the chatterbox in the relationship. You must can tell that. Yeah. So I said, no, since you want to deal with it here, we're going to do it. I am not miserable, but I find that you've become emotionally withdrawn. What's going on? And he replied, "It's not my fault. My dad died when I was 2."
Oh
And
my.
I said, "There you go. Thank
Mhm.
you. Have a good day." I
That.
went to work. He went to work. When he came home, we sat down and I said, you need to talk to somebody about that. I said, even though you say it in that way and you had a little giggle behind it, it's impacting you.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for sharing that. In his head, he couldn't, I don't think he's like, why she saying thanks?
Right.
But I'm like, no, 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 because sometimes we just blurt out the thing that's on our heart. Sometimes we have to get it off our chest.
Mhm.
But what that did for me, it put things in perspective,
Mhm.
and it really helped me to be a little bit more sensitive
Yeah.
in
Mhm.
the house for the remaining, days. Like, okay, cut him some slack here. All right, check in on his emotional well being. And even though he said that, he was also making the effort throughout the days. He said, "I'm calling you, call me on my lunch." He said, "I am calling you because you said I am emotionally distant. So I'm checking in on you." And then I said, I really acknowledge that. And
Yes.
so again, it's the communication.
Yeah.
And knowing a confrontation doesn't mean an argument. And sometimes you may ask them hard questions. And sometimes the voice might go up a little bit, but you're still maintaining respect for that person and knowing that, guess what? We're not fighting against each other. We need to get to the bottom of why we're snapping, why this is happening.
Right. So true.
Mm.
All right. Two final questions. What does emotional maturity looks like to you?
I think emotional maturity looks like having the hard discussions.
Mhm.
It requires being vulnerable. It requires knowing that I won't be judged. It requires walking in the other person's shoes. It requires thinking before you speak. It requires being patient.
Mhm.
It requires acknowledging the little steps the person is taking to give you a peek inside of what is going on with them.
Mhm.
It requires you being the listener that the person needs. It requires you being present in the moment and helping that person through whatever they're going through.
Yes.
That's so true, Sash. And just being mindful of all your emotions. God made us with them. God made us with our emotions, and it's okay for us to explore them. Emotional maturity means you are okay with feeling sad and you can weave your way through it. You're okay with being angry, but you can still exercise self control. You're okay with being nervous, with being scared. It's finding that balance with all your emotions and knowing that life is not always going to be smooth sailing. You're not always going to be smiling. You're not always you don't always have to have butterflies to feel that you're in love with somebody. It's also seeing, as I said, you're seeing the little demonstrations of love in the simplest things, you know, and just understanding you and your partner and all the people then that you are interacting with on a daily basis.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can trust
I don't know if any of you have had this experience when, for instance, speaking on the partner level, when your spouse acknowledges something or take accountability of something
Mhm.
and it leads to one of those vulnerable conversations
Yeah.
At the end of that conversation, for me, it feels as if this conversation has drawn us closer together. And it feels as if you have gotten to know the person way better.
Yes.
And there is a connection that I feel that was formed in that conversation that had we not have it, our relationship wouldn't have gotten a bit stronger than it was just moments prior.
So, very good, Sasha. That's so good. And a lot of persons really, let me tell you something, nothing is better than having a partner who is open up to accept their flaws whenever they are wrong. They are able to speak with you. You have that level of communication. We understand each other and we are on a mutual level. When you're not getting that communication going out, when you're not feeling as if, both of us are in this together and we are pulling through, it feels like, a level of, oh, I'm rejected. I don't see the importance of being here anymore. So when we are able to communicate, it somehow give us that feeling to keep doing and keep pushing and keep fighting for this, because it's for both of us. So that's what it feels like there. Can trust exist without accountability?
It might just bring surface trust.
Okay.
Because trust is something that's built based on actions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if your actions are constantly showing something else, that's causing me to feel hurt or somebody to be in fight or flight mode, I'm not going to trust. When you look at children who have been abandoned, they really struggle with trusting adults who should be safe adults. When you look at women who have experienced domestic violence, they really have issues trusting men, or if they're put in certain situation, they want to fight, because it puts the body on edge. And that's it. So if someone in a relationship is constantly not being accountable, trust is going to be shaken until there is just no trust. And so you might just be hanging around out of blind loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing your thoughts. One of the hardest truths to accept is that someone or some people are more committed to protecting their image than repairing the damage they cause. And when someone repeatedly refuses accountability, the issue is no longer just about the mistake. The issue becomes trust. Because trust grows when people can admit their faults, listen to the impact of their actions, and make adjustments. But when accountability is absent, confusion grows, resentment grows, and the relationship slowly becomes emotionally exhausting. Accountability is not about perfection. It's about honesty, maturity, and the willingness to repair what was broken. In closing, as we close, I want to leave this message with you and with everyone with their thoughts. Accountability is not humiliation. Accountability is maturity. It takes strength to admit when you're wrong. It takes character to listen when someone tells you that you hurt them. And it takes growth to change your behavior moving forward. But when someone refuses accountability, what they're really saying is that protecting their ego matters more than protecting their relationships. And that's why accountability is such an important foundation for healthy relationships. Thank you all for being here, for sharing your thoughts, and for contributing to this conversation. If this conversation resonates with you, make sure you stay connected to my podcast, Yonnie Unfiltered. Share this discussion with someone who might benefit from hearing it. And join us again for more honest conversation that changes us in our growth and development. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Alrighty.